Welcome to my series of videos on the I chord, or the idiot chord. Now this happens to be my hands down favorite knitting trick. And I know you're probably looking at this right now and thinking it's just a long tube of knitting. And you're right. In its original form, that's exactly what an idiot chord or an I chord is. But by the time we finish this series of videos, you are going to see so many different ways to use the I chord. You'll understand why it's my favorite trick. But let's start with the basics, and that is making a long column of knit stitches. Now, if you look at most books that tell you how to make an I chord, they talk about using a double-pointed needle, casting on your stitches. It's traditionally 3 stitches, and you knit them, and then you slide them to the end of your double-pointed needle, and you knit them, and then you slide them to the end of the double-pointed needle, and you just keep repeating that until you end up with a long tube, okay? The thing is, 99% of the time, you will be attaching your I chord in some way to fabric. And when that happens, you can't really use a double-pointed needle because you've already got a whole bunch of fabric. You'll notice I have my fabric right here, ready for my demonstrations. And so what I've gotten into, the habit of doing, is just learning how to knit my I chord using a needle, either straight needle or in my case a circular needle, and taking the stitches back, just slipping the stitches back to the other needle and knitting them again. So that is what I do, because that's what you're going to have to learn to do in order to attach the I chord to any other bit of fabric. Okay, so the casting on is not really a problem. We're going to talk about a different kind of cast on later, but for just this practice piece, you can do a long tail cast on, or actually a short tail cast on since it's only 3 stitches. But I am using a worsted weight wool because it's easier for you to see, and size 5 needles because they're easier for you to see. Okay, so I've cast on my 3 stitches. And the thing with I chord is, if you look at the back, you know, I've knit my 3 stitches, I've moved them back to the left-hand needle, and then what you do is you knit the first stitch. And notice if you knit the first stitch, you're essentially pulling. See how you do this? You're pulling that yarn all the way across the back, and that is what's making your little tiny tube of knitting. And you knit the 3 stitches, okay? And as we spoke, now it doesn't really matter how you slip the stitches back. Now you could put them into the back of the loop and slip them back. I find it awkward because I'm pulling on this already, and it's just kind of, I tend to just take my needle into the front. So I take it to the front, take it to the front, take it to the front, and voila! I'm ready to start knitting my 3 stitches again. Now, here is the big trick I want to tell you about the basic I chord knitting. And that is, I thought, as I was, you know, obviously I use I chord a lot, and as I was using it, I was never really happy with how kind of sloppy the first of the 3 stitches always ended up looking. I just sloppy and loose and just not happy with it. Then I thought, wait a minute, I knit into the back of stitches all the time when I'm tightening up the joins on a sock gusset or at mitten edges, at thumbs, and the point of that is to tighten up the stitch. So watch this. This is now what I do always when I do an I chord. I slip my stitches over, no problem again. But in this case, what I do is I, just like normal, knit into the back. Just a normal knit into the back of the knit stitch and knit it, knit across the 2 stitches normally, you know, through the front, okay? You don't twist all 3 stitches, just the first. And then you'll notice I move it back over again. Okay. And then when I get the 3 stitches over, And lots of times I don't even take the needle out. I've gotten into that habit. And then I knit into the back. And that ends up making the first stitch tightened up, and it looks great, and I'm a lot happier with the finished product. All right, now we're going to go on to I-cord applied in different ways. And I have a square of just stockinette fabric that I've made for you, and we are going to be using the corners and the edges and the bottoms and actually the surface itself for me to show you in just a few of the really, really interesting ways that you can use I-cord.